The ultimatum, my mother-in-law banned my son's birthday. We packed, vanished, and watched their empire collapse. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Albright, gave me an ultimatum. Cancel my son Leo's 9th birthday party or be cut off from the family forever. After spending years doing 42 hours of unpaid architectural work for them, I realized their family tax was a financial weapon. So, my fiancée, Clara, and I made a quiet decision. We packed a few bags that night and we completely vanished. We didn't fight them. We simply ghosted. But here's the hook. My silence didn't just hurt them. It triggered a massive economic and social implosion that cost them their house, their reputation, and their retirement fund, all because I insisted on buying my son a birthday cake. Before we dive into the total collapse, drop a comment below and tell me, what is the most entitled demand a family member has ever made on you? Let's get into the chaos.
My mother-in-law, Mrs. Albright, forbade my son Leo's 9th birthday celebration because my fiancé's sister Helena's children felt their own lack of special treatment was an emergency. So that same evening, my fiancée Clara and I packed essentials and vanished without a trace. A year passed. Helena's kids eventually saw how genuinely happy Leo was, and Helena couldn't tolerate the peaceful evidence of our successful departure. The resulting public confrontation completely fractured the family unit. Greetings, anonymous internet forum. I never expected to share this kind of private drama online, but I need to clear my mind. Find a comfortable spot for this disaster. It's far more destructive than it sounds. A note. I have a learning disability that affects writing structure. Please excuse any minor phrasing errors. My name is Silas Thorne. I'm 39, a male architectural draftsman specializing in custom residential projects, and I earn enough for a very comfortable lifestyle. The inherent problem with being the designated pillar of a large family is that they take your support for granted until you step away. When you stop, they simply blame you for the collapse. To understand the depth of this family's toxic dynamics, I must provide some brief background context. My older sister-in-law, Helena, is the walking embodiment of entitled arrogance, wrapped in a false sense of achievement. She is a bespoke digital artist, which translates to maybe 2 high-paying commissions per year, yet she presents herself as the CEO of a major corporation, always discussing scaling my creative empire from the high-rise loft her husband's venture capital wealth paid for. Everything about Helena is an elaborate performance. I don't hate her. That would require far too much energy. My respect for her ended the day she proudly told guests at a holiday dinner that she was a self-made success, while I was, at that exact moment, installing the custom lighting fixtures in her new studio apartment for free. The level of oblivion was stunning. Mrs. Albright meticulously tracked every success as if she were a financial auditor, but the criteria were always skewed. Helena could post a filtered photo of a smoothie, and Mrs. Albright would praise her like she'd won a major design award. I could complete the complex drawings for an entire high-end house renovation and receive a simple, "You're dependable, son." Mr. Albright was somehow worse, playing the neutral party, a silent judge in a designer vest. He watched his wife favor Helena, but only offered a weak, "Now, darling," when the favoritism was absolutely undeniable. He enabled the dysfunction completely, while justifying it as keeping the peace. This behavior pattern was established when we were young. I was about 10, watching Helena get private tutoring for advanced calculus while I was earning $5 a week delivering newspapers in the freezing rain. Mrs. Albright rationalized it as teaching me resourcefulness, but Helena needed the tutoring to nurture her genius. I was built through hard labor. She was built through exclusive instruction, a strange kind of justice. By age 15, I was taking on small drafting and home improvement jobs for cash. This is where I truly learned my trade. The old architect who hired me, Dr. Elias Vance, was built like a statue and could calculate structural loads faster than anyone could write them down. He taught me that structural integrity is absolute. It either holds or it collapses. I met my fiancée, Clara, during a site visit. It was midnight on a Saturday. The security alarm in her apartment complex was malfunctioning, and the building manager was useless. When I arrived, she offered me stale pastries and apologized for the clutter in her foyer. We got married quietly at the local magistrate's office with a single bouquet of flowers and her roommate as our witness. The photos are grainy, but the memory is perfect. Helena married her husband, Marcus, at a sprawling coastal estate in the North Atlantic Territory. It was complete with drone photography, a custom-blended champagne, a 7-tiered cake display, and a heavily promoted rhyming hashtag. Mrs. Albright wept and told the entire reception that this was the pinnacle of her parental fulfillment. At my simple ceremony, she took one photo and left before the cake was even cut. When Leo was born, I held him in the hospital and had an epiphany. My primary mission in life is to ensure this child never feels like a secondary character in someone else's life story. Our new house rules were established. Don't lie, don't hold grudges, and don't allow others to use false generosity as a weapon. My in-laws operated on a system of minor favors that were anything but minor. Install Helena's smart lock and cameras. Fix Mr. Albright's projector screen and connect it to the network. Pick up catering because Helena's client meeting ran late. Watch the cousins because Helena needed a planning session. Initially, I complied with everything to keep the peace and pay the family duty tax. However, the tax rate kept rising, and I never saw a receipt for my payment. I started tracking my contributions to prove that my feeling of being taken advantage of was not just paranoia. From the beginning of the year to late summer, 42 hours of skilled labor. Materials and parts, $378. Reimbursement received, 0. Sincere thanks not followed by a new request, 0. The worst offense was that they treated my time as if I were a salaried employee. A 7 a.m. text on a Sunday, "Can you swing by at 9? The door access code stopped working." Not, "Are you available?" or "When would be convenient?" Just a flat expectation. If I mentioned Leo's soccer practice, the reply would be, "Can you come right after? It will only take 15 minutes." It never took 15 minutes. It was always an hour minimum, often 2, once the "while you're here" edition started. Leo's game would be long over. He would ask me where I was during his winning goal. I'd offer a vague excuse about a work emergency. He would nod, accepting the answer, but the look in his eyes betrayed that he already understood he was not the priority. That look was painful. Mrs. Albright kept saying they'd settle up around the winter holiday. Then it was, "after Helena's big launch." Then it was, "money is tight right now." Meanwhile, Helena was showing off a new expensive digital drawing tablet at every dinner. It wasn't about the money, it was the presumption. My schedule was flexible, but theirs was immutable. Leo's needs were secondary, but their kids' emotions were treated like sacred principles. My boundaries were selfish, but their demands were family duties. Last year, we tried a joint birthday celebration for Leo's 8th birthday. It was supposed to be practical. Mrs. Albright insisted the cousins should celebrate together. The sharing meant Leo was effectively ignored, while Helena's children commandeered the event and got the cake. I watched Leo try to blow out his candles, 3 out of 8, because Helena's kids wanted to assist. Something inside me snapped. Leo later asked me if a joint party meant it wasn't really his. Clara cried quietly in our bedroom. I stood outside the room staring at the custom-programmed smart lock I'd installed on my in-laws' front door and fantasized about sending an itemized invoice for emotional distress. I didn't send it. It felt petty and pointless. Meanwhile, they had been evaluating my worth since I was an adult, but that, somehow, was just maintaining family standards. I was about to find out exactly how skewed those standards were really. Saturday morning, the day before Leo's 9th birthday, I drove to my in-laws' home to borrow their extra fold-out tables for the party. We needed them for food and gifts. Mr. Albright was in his easy chair, pretending to be a mute piece of decor, the television on silent. That's his usual posture right before an inevitable conflict. Mrs. Albright was in the kitchen, making coffee. The tension in the air was palpable, the specific calm before a shouting match. Helena was there too, sitting at the counter, scrolling through a tablet. She looked up when I entered, gave a fleeting, odd smirk, and immediately returned to her screen. Mrs. Albright slammed a mug down, making her point with the noise. "We need to discuss tomorrow's party." I remained silent, letting the unspoken weight fill the room. "You will have to reschedule Leo's celebration." "What?" I asked. "Helena's children saw the elaborate decor you purchased. They are deeply distressed. A large celebration for Leo now would only escalate family conflict. It's inappropriate." The words hit me like a physical blow. It's 6 kids, store-bought hot dogs, and a cake from the market, I said, my voice completely emotionless. "We are not hosting a televised event." Helena jumped into the discussion without looking away from her tablet. "It's not about the event, Silas. It's about being thoughtful. My children are going through a difficult emotional time. They don't need to feel inadequate." "Inadequate compared to what?" I asked. "A 9-year-old small backyard party?" "They are still processing the marital separation." Helena finally looked up. "Marcus moved out 2 weeks ago. The children are heartbroken. And here you are planning this huge event as if nothing is wrong." I stared at her. "So my son loses his birthday because your marriage failed?" Her face flushed bright red. "That is not what I implied." "That is precisely what you implied." Mrs. Albright deployed her signature guilt-inducing tone. "If you stubbornly proceed with this selfish endeavor, do not bring him near this home afterward. We will not support that kind of disrespect." "Support what behavior?" I asked. "Celebrating my child?" "Causing unnecessary suffering to your niece and nephew," Mrs. Albright hissed. "Family unity is paramount, Silas. Sometimes that requires sacrifices." "I have been sacrificing for this family for my entire adult life. Leo has not. He is 9. He gets a party." Mr. Albright cleared his throat and remained inert, a useless figurehead. In that instant, something clarified in my mind. It wasn't rage. It was recognition. I saw the entire manipulative system clearly. My son's simple happiness was a threat to their established order. The entire equation was flawed. "Understood," I said, my voice completely level. I left the folding tables exactly where they were and walked out. I didn't slam the door. The resulting silence was far more impactful. I sat in my truck for 5 minutes. My phone vibrated. A text from Helena. "Don't be overdramatic. We can celebrate him next month." I turned the phone off. That night, Clara and I sat at our kitchen table after Leo was asleep. They said absolutely no to the party. She put down her phone. "What do you mean, no?" Helena's kids saw the preparations. My mother-in-law said, "If we go ahead, we are cut off. No visits, no contact." She said they cannot support our disrespect. Clara was quiet for a long moment. "So, what is your next move?" "I am going to host my son's party," I declared. "And I am going to stop negotiating for the fundamental right to celebrate my own child." "Then let's do exactly that." The messages started at 9:40 p.m. First, Mr. Albright, "Son, let's just pause and rethink this." Then Helena, "Please don't make everything so unnecessarily complicated." Finally, Mrs. Albright, "If you proceed with this party, you are forbidden from returning to our home. We cannot tolerate this level of insolence." I screenshotted every message, saved them to a dedicated digital folder labeled Documentation, and turned my phone off for good. Clara and I sat at our kitchen table, and I felt a sense of focus I hadn't experienced in years. Sunday morning. Leo woke up shouting about turning 9, and was so excited he put his favorite shirt on inside out. We frosted his cake together. At 8:59 a.m., Mrs. Albright called. I let it ring. 9:15 a.m., Helena. 9:30 a.m., Mr. Albright. The missed call log looked like a confrontation, but I was focused on securing balloons to a fence post and didn't care at all. It was time to host my son's party and watch my in-laws lose control. We set up at a public plaza near our apartment complex. We reserved a sheltered area for $60, hung a banner that said Leo's 9th in letters he had decorated himself, and brought a cooler of drinks, burgers on a portable gas grill, and the store-bought cake. Kids started arriving around 11 a.m. Helena must have seen the plaza location on the event text chain Marcus was still on, because they soon arrived acting like they owned the place. Awkward hellos quickly dissolved into pure joyful chaos. A game of tag, running around the fountains, the specific sound of happy children screaming. Normal kid behavior. At 11:20 a.m., I saw them enter. Mrs. Albright first, Helena right behind her. Marcus trailed along with their kids, looking like he'd prefer literally any other location. It was Marcus's scheduled time with his kids, and Helena had told him he was required to bring them. Mr. Albright brought up the rear, attempting his neutral performance, uninvited, unhelpful, and completely determined. Leo ran over and grabbed my hand, his palm slightly sticky from frosting. I squeezed his hand in return. Mrs. Albright examined the setup like a health inspector, the paper goods, the cheap cooler, the homemade banner. Her face hardened into that expression of disappointment masquerading as genuine concern.
"Silas," she said, her voice piercing the noise of the plaza, "we warned you about the consequences of this." "This is Leo's celebration," I replied, my voice as calm as a frozen pond. Helena stepped forward, holding her phone. "Look, I don't want to create a scene, but this is incredibly selfish. My kids have been crying since dawn, Silas, all morning, because you had to make a dramatic point." "I am celebrating my son's birthday," I countered. "That is not a point. That is a parent doing their duty." Mrs. Albright switched to the guilt strategy, her favorite move. After everything we have done and sacrificed for you— Sacrificed what? I asked. She blinked, as if I had just asked her a complex physics equation. We raised you. We provided opportunities. You provided Helena with opportunities. You provided me with labor demands. Don't confuse the two. One of the other parents, a woman from Leo's school with a sensible haircut and sturdy shoes, was watching the whole exchange. She caught my eye and silently mouthed, "Are you all right?" I nodded. She positioned herself slightly between Mrs. Albright and the children's area. "Victim!" Helena immediately jumped in. "Oh, great! Are you seriously playing the victim here at a children's event?" "I am playing the host," I said, "at my son's party to which you were not invited." Marcus cleared his throat. "Hey man, can we all let's be mature about this." "I am being mature," I said. "I planned a party for my child. You all showed up uninvited and tried to make it about your own unhappiness. Whose behavior is immature?" "How dare you address us in that tone?" Mrs. Albright's eyes widened. Mr. Albright tried to intervene. "Son, maybe we should all just take a moment." "Do not son me," I said. "You sat there for 39 years watching this manipulation happen and said nothing. You forfeit the right to be a mediator now." The children had all stopped playing and were standing in an awkward cluster, watching the adults destroy a perfectly good afternoon. I hated that, but I knew this moment had to happen. I knelt down to Leo. "Are you doing okay, buddy?" He nodded. "Do you want them to stay?" He looked at his cousins, then at Helena, then back at me. "I just want everybody to enjoy the day." A remarkably diplomatic answer. At 9, he was already wiser than the adults. I stood up and looked directly at Mrs. Albright. "You can remain and behave respectfully as guests, or you can leave. Those are the only choices." "You are issuing us an ultimatum?" she asked, her voice shaking with calculated pain. "I am establishing a boundary. If that feels like an ultimatum, that's a reflection of your perspective, not mine." Helena tried to storm closer, but Marcus gently held her arm. She yanked away. "You know what? Fine. Enjoy your pitiful celebration. When your son eventually asks why he has no bond with his grandparents, you can justify how your stubborn ego was more important than your family." "When he asks," I said, "I will show him the documented evidence of you threatening to cut him off if I dared to celebrate his birthday. He can then determine who truly values family." Her face turned a dangerous shade of red. Mrs. Albright looked utterly stunned. Mr. Albright stared at the ground. I turned to the children. "Who wants the next round of burgers?" The pavilion immediately filled with happy yelling. Mrs. Albright stood frozen. Then she shouted, "If you deliberately alienate yourself from us like this, do not ever attempt to return. We will not tolerate being humiliated in front of children. And we will not tolerate being blackmailed in front of them either." Helena walked toward the exit, filming a quick video clip, undoubtedly already composing a victim post in her head. "You will severely regret this decision," she called over her shoulder. "I regret wasting 42 hours of skilled labor on your apartment remodel. This actually feels quite liberating." Helena stormed off first. Mrs. Albright and Mr. Albright followed in a huff. Marcus lingered long enough to assure his kids they could stay, then quickly slipped away. We ate. A kid spilled the punch, another scored an imaginary goal and did a somersault. Life simply resumed as if the confrontation never occurred. When the last non-family guest left, Clara leaned against me. "I am so proud of you." I finally exhaled for the first time all day. Marcus returned about an hour later to collect his kids. Helena had left without them.
He apologized, saying the separation was increasingly difficult and that Helena had been spiraling since his departure. He gave a sad laugh. Then he said something that stuck with me. "She genuinely kept telling me you were indebted to her for just being family, as if you were wrong for wanting compensation for professional work. I started checking her finances, and nothing made sense." "You're better off without the obligation," I said. "My bank account agrees. And my stress levels." That evening, I had a realization. We couldn't stay in our apartment, which was only 15 minutes from their residence. They would feel entitled to simply show up. Every trip to the store risked a confrontation. We cleaned the plaza, brought the leftover cake home. I sat on our small balcony overlooking the parking garage. The realization became a conviction. We needed to vanish completely. Time to go completely off the grid. We packed as if we were entering a protection program. 2 duffel bags, a single backpack, Leo's most cherished building block sets. Clara gathered our vital documents. I took my drafting tools and invoice records. Everything else was replaceable or negligible. I called Dr. Elias Vance, the retired architect who trained me. I explained we needed a place to stay for a week or 2.
He asked no questions. He gave me the address to a rental unit he owned on the other side of the metropolitan area. "You can stay there while I find a new renter," he said. "No rent. Just keep it tidy and repair anything that breaks." We departed our apartment at sunrise. We didn't inform the building owner and didn't redirect our mail. We forfeited our security deposit and paid a lease termination fee that arrived 2 weeks later. We considered it Tuition for Peace and Quiet 101. We drove across the city as if we were escaping a difficult past. Dr. Vance's place was a small 2-bedroom unit above a vintage bookstore. The floorboards creaked, the antique windows let in a slight draft. But it was 30 miles from my in-laws' house, and that made it absolutely ideal. The faint smell of aged paper and strong coffee became our new normal. Leo found it fascinating. Clara said it had genuine character. I said it had distance. The family's reaction arrived in distinct waves. Week 1, 34 missed calls from Mrs. Albright, 19 from Mr. Albright, 12 from Helena. Unknown numbers turned out to be distant cousins and older relatives recruited for the guilt campaign. Voicemails ranged from faux concern to outright threats. "Where are you? We are concerned for Leo's welfare. This is child abuse, Silas. You are destroying this family." I saved everything, categorizing it as adversity reports. One voicemail from Mrs. Albright was particularly dramatic. "Your father fell yesterday. We had to call Helena because we couldn't reach you. What if it had been a severe injury? What if he had died and you missed it because of your pride?" I called Dr. Vance. "Did my father-in-law fall?" "Saw him at the coffee shop this morning," Dr. Vance said. "He looked perfectly fine to me, was buying a newspaper." Manufacturing a false emergency, a classic tactic. Week 2, the financial attack. Mrs. Albright sent me a complex spreadsheet, an actual digital file, itemizing supposed loans she claimed I owed her. It included birthday present 2019, $50, now reclassified as a debt. Holiday catering, $87. Emergency cash, $200. This was after I had rewired their entire complex network for free. Winter holiday presents, $840. Apparently, gifts were now ledger entries. Total claimed $2,337 plus reasonable interest of $3,150. I screenshotted it, added it to adversity reports, and sent a single text back. "Send me an itemized invoice for every hour of professional labor I performed for free. We can then reconcile the difference." She never replied. I did the calculation anyway. I sat at Dr. Vance's kitchen table with my calculator and my old records. Every job I could recall, every repair, every installation, every quick favor that turned into a 3-hour commitment.
42 hours of skilled labor at my current rate of $110 per hour, $4,620. Parts and materials, $378. Family discount, which was just free labor, $4,998. I did not send them the bill, but I kept the official invoice, filed it with adversity reports, just in case. Week 3. The public smear campaign. Helena posted a quote about establishing necessary distance from toxic relatives over a highly filtered photo of the ocean. 3 people commented with heart emojis. 1 commented, "Staying strong for your precious babies." Then she posted an entire gallery of photos from her children's healing journey, counseling sessions, art therapy projects, a vision board about reconstructing after familial trauma. The comments were sympathetic. Poor Helena, abandoned by her own brother-in-law. Nobody mentioned the 42 hours of free labor. Nobody mentioned the threats. Nobody mentioned my son's birthday. I stayed completely off social media, deleted the apps, blocked their numbers. Our new existence had a steady, predictable pace. Mornings, I walked Leo to his new school 6 blocks away. The owner of the local bakery, Miss Lee, started giving Leo a free muffin every day. "Your son has excellent manners," she said once. That simple compliment meant more than a lifetime of their hollow praise. Afternoons, service calls. I increased my rates by $15 and stopped apologizing for it. I charged a premium for same-day service and an extra fee for weekend work. A funny thing happened. Clients simply paid without argument because professionals charge professional rates. Evenings. Homework at a folding table I bought for $10. Simple pasta 4 nights a week because it was economical and Leo didn't complain. Soccer in the nearby park. I accepted every contract I could, and I stopped undervaluing my skill. The crucial lesson: once you stop undervaluing yourself, other people eventually follow suit. I implemented a new standard response policy. When a family member texted asking for assistance, I sent a standard reply. "Happy to assist. My rate is $110 per hour. Weekend rate is $140. Payment is required upfront via secure transfer." Mrs. Albright replied, "This is completely unacceptable." Mr. Albright replied, "But we are family." Helena replied with a screenshot of a lower-priced competitor and a laughing emoji. I replied to all of them, "Excellent. Hire them." They never did. In November, Mr. Albright called at 6 a.m. Their custom security system was malfunctioning. "Your mother is locked in and cannot get to her appointment." I can arrive on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Rate is $110 plus any required parts. Payment first. A long pause. "You are actually doing this?" "I am." "We raised you better than this behavior. You raised me to work for free and accept token praise. I am doing significantly better than that." He hung up. They hired an independent contractor who charged $185 and apparently botched the repair so badly they needed a second technician to fix it. Total cost, $340. Mrs. Albright texted me a photo of the final bill with the caption, "This is the outcome when family abandons family." I composed 6 different angry responses, but settled on, "That is what market value looks like." She blocked my number. A welcome relief. During this period, Leo was changing, gradually, like a neglected plant finally receiving adequate light. He slept soundly through the night, stopped flinching when my phone rang, and stopped asking, "Are we going to Grandma's?" He started asking, "Can Ben come over?" and "Can we get pizza this weekend?" The answer became yes more often, not because we suddenly had more wealth, but because the emotional drain was gone. We were not constantly calculating how to manage other people's feelings. We were just living. We initiated 2 savings accounts, one labeled Financial Safety Net and the other Leo's Education Fund. We contributed tips and cash from side jobs, $5 here, $20 there. Clara picked up alteration work from neighbors and added the cash. The balances grew, slowly at first, then more rapidly. It was mundane and sacred at the same time. I became an expert at job estimation, at detecting scope creep, and at professionally stating that is an additional charge without hesitation. One client attempted the family guilt trip on me, claiming her contractor cousin charged much less. I politely told her to hire her cousin. She called back 2 days later and paid my full rate without haggling. Word spread quickly. I was known as the draftsman who arrived promptly, completed the work correctly the first time, and was transparent about timelines and cost. Business flourished. Not everything was simple, though. In February, my truck required a new transmission, $1,240. We were sitting in the repair shop, received the quote, and I felt the familiar panic. But Clara squeezed my hand and said, "We will handle this, together." We dipped into the financial safety net fund, ate budget meals for 2 weeks, and postponed going to the cinema. Leo asked if we were poor. "We are being responsible," I replied. He thought about it. Responsible sounds smarter. In March, I saw Helena at a large chain store. She was in the luxury goods aisle, filling her cart even though she hadn't had a major commission in weeks. She saw me and feigned surprise. "Oh my goodness, Silas, I didn't realize you frequented this store. Where else would I purchase necessities?" I asked. "Never mind." She looked at my cart. Professional tools, heavy-duty cables, power batteries. "Still doing the small-time drafting work?" "Still doing the part-time digital art commissions?" I asked back. Her face darkened. "I am expanding a business. I am building a stable life. One has reliable income." She looked like she wanted to throw a carton of batteries at me. Instead, she said, "You know, Mother had a health issue last month. No one could contact you because I blocked everyone. What if it had been life-threatening?" "Then I would have learned about it at the memorial service," I said, "along with everyone else who wasn't on the approved contact list." She stared at me as if I had suddenly changed into someone else. "You have truly transformed." "No," I said, "I just stopped pretending the investment was worthwhile." She walked away, leaving her full cart behind. I bought my supplies and went home. The texts kept coming, from new numbers, using new emotional tactics, testing my resolve. From Mrs. Albright, "Your father is turning 65. From Mr. Albright, "We miss Leo. This distance is not fair to him." From Helena, "When will you stop being so petty?" I replied to absolutely none of them. Complete silence. Total blackout. Here is what they fail to grasp. I am not making a statement. I am not waiting for an apology. I am simply finished. Not angry, not hurt, just close the door. Summer arrived. We took Leo to the public swimming pool every weekend. $3 admission. We brought our own snacks, sunscreen from the budget store. He learned to dive from the high board. Clara read books on a lawn chair. I floated on my back and thought about absolutely nothing. This felt like success. In August, Leo's advisor called. My heart sank until she said, "I just wanted to inform you that Leo's emotional stability has improved dramatically. Whatever you are doing at home is clearly beneficial." I was sitting in my truck outside a worksite and felt an intense wave of relief. We barely spoke to our in-laws. They sent holiday cards, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. Each one contained a veiled message about forgiveness, second chances, and the importance of family. We declined every invite with a one-sentence reply each time. "Thank you, we have prior engagements." They sent photos of perfectly matching attire and elaborate dinner settings. We wore mismatched socks, ate pizza straight from the box, and Leo fell asleep comfortably between us on the sofa. One evening in October, Clara asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I truly considered the question. I said, "I miss the idea of them, the version I always hoped they would become. But the real people, no, I don't miss being the hired help. I don't miss waiting for the next attack." A full year passed. Quiet. No major incidents. just the simple accumulation of better days. Then, Leo turned 10. 2 weeks before his 10th birthday, he asked the question I had been anticipating. "Can I invite my cousins to my party?" "You can invite anyone you wish," I said. "They may not attend." He wrote their names down anyway. Right after his friends Ben and Aiden and Paige, he drew tiny soccer balls next to the cousins' names. We planned the same celebration, the same plaza area. This time I rented a large inflatable obstacle course from a company whose van I had assisted with a generator issue. The owner gave me $100 off and included a bubble machine. Community goodwill, he called it. Party day, 1 p.m. The pavilion was full of children and noise. The obstacle course was an instant success. Kids were screaming, laughing, and bouncing off the inflated walls. At 11:11 p.m., Helena arrived with her children. No Mrs. Albright, no Mr. Albright. The children looked uncertain for a moment, then saw the obstacle course and forgot their learned strategy. Leo handed his cousin a juice box. "You can go first if you want." The cousin smiled. "That's nice, but you go first. It's your birthday." 10 minutes later, I heard one cousin whisper to another, "Leo's parties are actually really fun." Helena overheard it, tensed up, then snapped loudly enough for the other parents to hear. "It must be wonderful having unlimited attention." She quickly turned and speed-walked toward the parking area, tears already forming. Mrs. Albright chased after her. The children kept playing as if nothing happened. The solution could have been this simple the entire time. At 1:47 p.m., Mrs. Albright and Mr. Albright walked in late, cautious, dressed somberly. They stood at the periphery, watching the chaos like observers. Mrs. Albright approached me. "Can we please talk?" "Not right now," I said. "We are occupied." "5 minutes." "No." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "You are not the focus here," I said. "Leo is. You can either participate in the party or you can depart. Those are your only options." She looked utterly heartbroken. Mr. Albright gently took her arm. "Let's just enjoy the party, dear." They sat at a picnic table, not interacting much. They took a few photos. They left after the cake was cut without saying goodbye. At 2:30 p.m., Helena cornered me by the cooler, arms crossed, adopting her feigned concerned expression. "So this is your revenge," she said. "Excluding family from your son's major milestone?" "I excluded no one," I said. "I invited Leo's cousins. They arrived. You are here. That is called inclusion. Mother and father are deeply hurt. Mother and father threatened to sever all contact with my son if I dared to celebrate his birthday last year. They can sit with that discomfort. I won't manage it." "You are never going to forgive that, are you?" "Why would I? They meant the threat. I simply responded accordingly." She tried a different approach. "What do you actually want from us?" "Nothing," I said. "That is the core realization. I do not want your version of family. I am completely content." "You are deeply resentful." "No, I am finally free." That night my phone exploded with messages ranging from aggressively passive to openly hostile. I posted a single-stitched screenshot to the family group chat that documented threats about canceling Leo's 9th birthday, and then muted the conversation. "You have shamed your mother. You are irrevocably destroying this family. We will never forgive this. Do not bother attending the funeral." I read them all. Saved them to adversity reports. Went to sleep. 2 days later, Dr. Elias Vance called. "Are you occupied?" "Depends on the offer." "I have a job for you, a massive one, a corporate client, a commercial office building downtown. They need a full security and automation system redesign. I recommended you because you are reliable and conduct ethical business," he said. "Also because I am officially retiring and need someone competent to inherit my commercial clients. The job's fee was $18,000. The client was a reputable legal firm, the kind of business that does not quibble over professional invoices. I started the following Monday. 20 months into our quiet exit, here is what has happened to everyone who claimed I would regret walking away. Helena's marriage completely dissolved. It turns out that when you lose your free architectural support and IT assistance, you start looking for a replacement that doesn't exist. Helena quickly decided that Marcus should become the replacement for me. She began demanding he handle every maintenance task I used to perform: installing smart home technology, repairing complex appliances, running network cables. Marcus is a financial technology programmer, not an architectural technician. Every single project he attempted went disastrously wrong. Every failure escalated into a major conflict. Helena loudly claimed to everyone that she was purely focused on her artistic business. Meanwhile, Marcus filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and serious financial deception. It was discovered that Helena had been meticulously hiding substantial debt. Credit cards were maxed out for expensive digital art software she rarely used. She had rented a studio space for 6 months that was just a spare room in an acquaintance's home. She paid for lavish professional photo shoots for a portfolio that generated 0 commissions. Her entire digital art dream was funded exclusively by revolving credit lines and Marcus's high salary. When he finally gained access to the joint accounts during the discovery phase, he uncovered $38,000 in concealed debt.
Their large home was immediately put up for sale. Helena moved into a small apartment and instantly began telling associates she was downsizing to better focus on my pure artistry. Translation: she could no longer afford the substantial mortgage payment. Her professional bookings also evaporated quickly. Clients talk. When your public family life explodes and your own brother-in-law refuses to communicate with you, people begin to speculate about your integrity. No one wants that kind of instability on a major project day. One client told her event planner, who told her photographer, who told a colleague in the art vendor social group, who then posted, "Has anyone had negative experiences with Helena? She seemed unstable at my consultation, kept checking her phone, made inappropriate comments about her ex-husband. I don't want that turbulent energy on my event day." 43 people viewed that post. In the high-end art and design industry, this is equivalent to a career termination. Her bookings plummeted from 2 per month to 1 every 3 months. She attempted to pivot to teaching digital design classes at the community college, enrolled 3 students, and lost 2 after the introductory session. I learned this because she texted me at 2 a.m. on a weekday, obviously distressed and not thinking rationally. "This is entirely your fault. You maliciously turned everyone against me. You poisoned the entire family structure." My reply was simple. I didn't have to do a single thing. I just stopped covering up the truth for you. Mr. and Mrs. Albright's elaborate retirement plan was completely ruined. They had been planning to move into Helena's large home, enjoying the expansive yard and dedicated guest suite. When Helena's marriage failed and the house was sold, that entire plan vanished. They attempted to downsize, but the real estate market was fiercely competitive. Their own house required substantial repairs that I used to perform for free. New buyers demanded these issues be fixed. Professional quotes came back at $14,000 for just the basic structural repairs. They attempted to haggle, but the buyers simply walked away. 3 more potential sales collapsed for the exact same lack of maintenance. They finally sold the home at a $30,000 loss and moved into a small, noisy rental unit 40 minutes away. According to my cousin Helen, they despised the new place. Too small, too loud, absolutely no space for the grandchildren to visit. They naturally blamed me. Mr. Albright called me in March,
not to offer an apology, but to discuss options. "Your mother and I have been thinking seriously about multi-generational living," he said. "It makes strong financial sense. We could consolidate resources." Translation: "Can we move into your place?" I reminded him our unit was only 2 bedrooms. "You could begin searching for a larger place," he suggested. "We would contribute to the rent." "With what money?" I asked. Silence. "We are stable where we are," I concluded. "I am sure you will devise a solution." He hung up. The broader family network fractured. The majority of relatives picked a side. A surprisingly high number sided with me. Cousin Helen mentioned she had observed the negative dynamic for years and was relieved someone had finally stood up to it. 2 other cousins reached out describing similar control tactics they had faced. An uncle I barely knew sent me $200 with a note that simply read, "For Leo's education fund." Those who sided with Mrs. Albright and Helena stopped initiating contact after about 4 months once they realized my departure was permanent. Just silence. The smear campaign also backfired spectacularly. Mrs. Albright attempted to rally her local community, painting me as the ungrateful son who abandoned his family over a petty issue. She made the mistake of doing this at a community gathering where Miss Lee was present, the bakery owner whose property security system I had personally installed for free late one Saturday night. Miss Lee was there supporting her sister's church event. She stood up and declared, "That young man has more honesty in his little finger than most people have in their entire being. Perhaps you should consider why he chose to leave." 4 other people nodded in agreement. Mrs. Albright left the gathering almost immediately. She has not returned to that community group since. Helena's digital art career completely failed. Reputation is everything in that professional world. When your own brother-in-law refuses to communicate with you, when your marriage publicly explodes, when clients start whispering at major events, people pay attention. Someone sent me a screenshot of an industry forum discussion. Someone recognized Helena's name from a vendor registry and asked if anyone had hired her. The replies were damning. Her final few confirmed commissions canceled immediately. The consensus was that she was volatile, undependable, and overpriced for the quality of work. Her phone ceased ringing entirely. Leo flourished. He turned 11, then 12. He is now taller than Clara. He made the academic honor roll, joined a travel soccer team, and his friends regularly visit to enjoy and subsequently mess up our small apartment. I love every single second of the healthy chaos. We saved enough money for a real vacation. We drove to the northern Atlantic coast. Leo stood in the surf up to his waist and declared, "Dad, this is the greatest day of my entire life." Clara took a photograph of him and me standing in the ocean, the sun setting behind us, both of us smiling widely. That photograph now lives on our refrigerator door, placed right next to his honor roll certificate and the birthday countdown calendar. I am no longer the obedient son who performed free labor. I am the man who decisively walked away and successfully constructed a superior life. I became the disappointment son, which has turned out to be the best possible outcome for my happiness and peace of mind. Epilogue: The New Foundation. The $18,000 contract with the law firm was the anchor. I executed the project flawlessly, finishing 2 weeks ahead of schedule. They immediately recommended me for 2 other large-scale commercial jobs. Dr. Vance formally transferred his remaining commercial clients to me, offering mentorship on the business side. Within 8 months, I had officially founded Thorne Architectural Systems, LLC, focusing exclusively on high-end commercial contracts, work that is structured, profitable, and entirely free of emotional obligation. We moved out of the apartment above the bookstore and bought a small 2-story house in Leo's school district. It has a tiny yard and a workshop that is all mine. We secured the mortgage easily, thanks to my new commercial contracts. The day we moved in, Leo ran from room to room. Clara leaned over and whispered to me, "No one has the key but us." That was the true celebration. Helena eventually reached out one last time, sending an anonymous email asking for help securing a lease, claiming a landlord had wrongfully denied her. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, who sent a one-line reply. All communication regarding financial or physical property must be directed to this office. Silence followed. The Albrights attempted to reach Leo through his soccer team's website, but Clara intercepted the message and informed the coach that only my number was authorized for contact. The boundary was absolute. Leo no longer worries about disappointing people he never sees. He is a confident, well-adjusted young man built on a foundation of certainty and quiet respect, not manufactured crisis. I look at my hands now. They don't just build. They draw, they plan, and they secure the future. The weight is gone, and the freedom is absolute. I learned that the most effective tool in any contract is the power to walk away. I used it, and it built my best life. We've reached the end of the road, and I'm not going to lie, losing the idea of a functional family still stings. But seeing my son Leo thrive, built on a foundation of peace and not obligation, confirms that walking away was the best architectural decision I ever made. Peace is absolutely priceless. If you've ever had to draw a line in the sand with toxic people, you know what that freedom feels like. Here's what I need from you. Hit that like button if you think I did the right thing for my son. Subscribe for more stories about building a better life. And most importantly, leave a comment telling me, did I go too far, or was walking away the only winning move? Tell me your story. I'll see you in the comments.